everybody. Welcome to I Got a Story. I'm Cindy, and for those of you who don't know me, I think pretty much everybody does know me. Fussing at my doggies here. Uh, and I appreciate the ones who have been making the positive feedback uh, regarding the videos and me being able to share my stories. I've only done, excuse me while I adjust, uh, I've only done 3 so far, but it was so cool about sharing these memories is it reminds me, because I just forget how blessed I've been in my past. And yes, the adventures are a little precarious sometimes and scary, yeah, because that's life. But but there's good stuff too, and that's what I want to share today. I want to share a little bit more of the the fun kind of stories, or the other adventures that aren't medically involved. Now, there's some stuff that is medically involved, but it's not because of the vision. It's being a kid, and I, I'm just grateful that that we survived. Or better yet, that my mother survived, because she had 2 rambunctious children to do. Well, one rambunctious child. My brother was not very well behaved, I would say. At least at home. In public, he was okay, but at home, he was. My dogs are being crazy. Um, he at home he was in his terrible twos, and I think that was where they got the expression terrible twos, because somebody met him and said he's terrible, and then the answer was he was too. Not true, but it seems like it was. Me being the big sister, of course, I'm a little bit more judgmental regarding that. The the fun thing about having a younger brother is we got stories. So one of the stories that I was going to share was when we were living in Florida. Florida, of course, was beautiful, and yes, I had a lot of surgery and well, not a lot of surgery, a couple surgeries, and so we were going back and forth to Bascom Palmer for medical reasons. But we got to do some kid stuff. I got to be a child, and I got to really enjoy the beauty of Key West. Now, having a brother that was 2 years old, one of the things that he was famous for was just climbing on everything and tearing things up and breaking stuff, and just being 2. And so here it was, Christmas was coming, and Mom is like, okay, we can't put up a Christmas tree, not with Jeff, not with him climbing and breaking things, and we're going to have Christmas bulbs. He's going to think it's baseballs and throw them everywhere. So anyway, so trying to decide how to handle that, and we want to have Christmas. So what she did was, we had this beautiful picture window that looked out onto the water, lagoon, I guess it was. And so the main street that went from the QS through the base entrance, and then would go past our house. So there was a little road, and we were in a duplex on a cul-de-sac. So the back part of the house faced the ocean, and so this wonderful big picture window. So Mom's like, oh, I know what to do. So she painted a Christmas tree on the picture window and hung little lights on it, and that was our Christmas. And she also did like a Mother Mary, the baby with the Madonna, and holding the baby, and so that was another one of the paintings that was on one of the windows in the house. I think it was on the door. And then my father just saw, that she was actually very good at what she did. And so so for Christmas, she got an art set, I believe. It was like one of the presents that she had. And so that kind of got her invested in being an artist. And Key West was a perfect place to be. So she got to, you know, she was invited by different friends to the different art expos and sidewalk shows. And Mallory Square was one of the places where she got to show her art. I remember going to Mallory Square, and the chickens were not there. I don't care what y'all say. Key West didn't have all the chickens that they have now. If you get to Key West, you know what I'm talking about. The cats, I remember, the Hemingway cats. I do remember them being everywhere, but those chickens weren't there yet. Um, and so I would run around the art shows and just, you know, investigate different artists and be judgy because my mother doesn't charge $300 for a print. My mom has a real painting, and it's only one like it, and this guy's got all these different prints, and he's charging all this money. My mom's better than him, you know. So typical kid. And but that was one of the ways that she was able to get some money to help pay for some of the costs for our medical bills, since it was being done by civilian doctors. Um, One of the other stories that that I remember was I started taking some art lessons, and so I had oil paints. And during my brother's nap time, my mom is busy doing mom stuff, and she thinks Jeff's asleep. She goes to check on him, and somehow during the nap time, he gets into the drawer that was practically impossible to open, but somehow he opens the drawer. He pulls out my art supplies, my oil paints, and takes the brushes, and he paints all over the walls, all over everything, all over himself, and he's eating the paint. So he's eating my tubes of paint. So of course, mom has to take him to the emergency and pump his stomach. So he eats my oil paints. So yeah, so there ends my art career. And I do remember an occasion where I was swimming and I almost drowned. And when I was going under, I remember thinking that that was it. And I was 6, okay? So in my imagination, I see Mary coming to take me and to rescue me. And so I see Mary swimming through the water. At least in my imagination, it was Mary. It was probably a manatee or something like that. But I remember having that vision in my head that I was going to be rescued by Jesus' mother. But no, it was Daddy, and he was able to pull me out. And what it was it when you think of going on the beach or in the water and all, the you're walking along, and you can't really judge when it drops off. And I was always told to be careful. And my parents were right there. It wasn't like I was out swimming by myself. But I just went a little too far, and I went under. And it only takes a second to go under. And I think I went under like 2 or 3 times. The third time, Dad pulls me out. So I was safe. I wasn't really in any danger. But in my head, I almost drowned, you know. Miss Drama here. After Key West, we moved to Maryland. So we go from this beautiful sunshiny state, beaches, you know, water on 3 sides of us, and beautiful art community, that type of thing, and just a wonderful place to grow up. And then we were in Maryland. Snow. We're only there 9 months, but it felt like it snowed the whole time we were there, at least in my mind. And one of the things I remember a little bit about that area, and I just remember disliking snow. And yes, I know a lot of people love it with the changes of the seasons, and the leaves are turning, and especially when you're an artist and you love the foliage and all that stuff. I just remember hating snow. That's all I remember. And my brother and I both, Jeff and I both, had gotten the mumps during this time, and We also had, I had gotten a pet guinea pig. I don't know if somebody gave her to us or if we actually, I don't remember going to pet store. I think she was given to us. And so I had this little aquarium thing with Missy in it. And so she's by my bed on top of the dresser. And somebody comes banging on the, the doors. And what was we were off the military base, but we were in military housing. These were apartment complexes. They were 2-story. There'd be 3 in one building and 3 in the 3 apartments in the other building, and so on and so forth. So different complexes. And so the complex next to us, right next to us, was smoke was coming out, and it was actually, I think it was starting to come into our apartment, all our apartments. And so somebody's banging on the doors. It was early in the morning, and like, hey, you need to evacuate. There's a fire right next door. So here I am with Mumps, my brother too. And so Mom's like, grab your brother. We got to leave the apartment. We got to go get out. And I'm like, Jeff's got legs. He doesn't need me to help him. I said, I'm getting Missy. So I get Missy, and we're wrapped up in the blanket, and I take Missy, and we're outside in the snow, and I'm holding on to her, and the dogs are going crazy again. So we're out in the snow, and I have the mump, so nobody is offering to take us in, except for one of the neighbors comes by, not somebody that we know very well, comes by, sees us out in the snow, and says, hey, come hang out with us. So we're in a place where we don't really know the people that well, but they have older girls, and so they help watch me and Missy and Jeff. And so we wait, and we were able to get back in. Unfortunately, there was a lady who was in the complex next door. I think it was the one that was on fire, and she thought her child was still inside. So she goes upstairs. He's not there. He's an older kid, I think, and he's over at somebody else's apartment. And so she goes upstairs, and so she's caught in an area where she can't get out. So she goes out the window. She ends up breaking her back. So that was a little traumatic, but I believe she was okay after everything. But it was just like one of those things where you kind of go, okay, they told us to go out, but I understand if she went thinking that her child was still in there. Then we get to go move back to Virginia. Now remember, this is like just being kids and just different adventures of being a child. But it reminds me too, is like my poor mom, the stuff that we put her through. Not just the medical issues with the vision, but also just being kids, or being brats, as somebody would say. And so we're in Virginia, and I wasn't very fond of Virginia, but it was okay. We were going through a busing time. This is the late 60s, and so the busing was part of what was going on during that time. And so I had to be bused to a good distance away from where we lived. And but the problem was, they didn't give us a bus to bus with. My mom had to hire somebody to take us to school and to stay with us, because she was working. She had jobs like on the military base. She had a job at one of the colleges. I think it was Old Dominion University. And so she had always been working. And so it was one of those things where we were just doing our thing, living our life. Well, Mom was very strict about how much TV we watched. And I was allowed to watch about an hour of TV after school if I got all my homework done. And of course, I love Star Trek. That was like the ultimate show. And so I got to the point where I was old enough to not get spanked, because we believed in spankings back in those days. So it would be, my restriction would be, I wouldn't be allowed to watch TV for a week, which was devastating to me because I want my Captain Kirk. Um, and so I would like practically beg, "Can you just make me get over with?" But no, that's not how it worked. So she was pretty good about discipline with us. And another thing that was happening was Jeff and I, we would get rambunctious once in a while. And so we were inside our room because we had to share a room because the military, again, we lived right off the military base. And so there wasn't like a big amount of money to pay for rent, I guess. And so we had a 2 bedroom. So Jeff and I had to share a room. And so we would get a little rambunctious and we play rough. And one time we were playing like keep away, and he went in to get the ball that I was trying to keep away from him. And so he went to get it, and I pulled his arm. Well, unfortunately, when I yanked his arm, I yanked it out of socket. So Mama had to take him to the hospital, and they popped it back in. Or this is what she told me. So the doctors popped it back in, so everything was good. So a couple weeks later, one of the other shows that I liked to watch was we would watch roller derby. So that if you're not familiar with roller derby, it was people going around in a circle skating. It was like racing, but it was very contact sporty. So they would literally push. They would wear helmets and knee pads and all that stuff, and they would circle around and push each other, and to get ahead. So Jeff and I get this bright idea that we're going to play roller derby. And I had these skates that I think my aunt gave me. They were kind of, you just had the key to it, and you could change the sizes of it. So I was able to put it over my shoe. And he had little safety skates that he wore. So we go outside, and we're playing roller derby. So I go, and we're racing down the sidewalk, and I butt him over, and he lands on one of those little manhole covers. Lands right on it. Starts screaming, and so it's his arm. Well, being the good sister that I am, I was going to fix it. So I said, well, Mom said that all I had to do was pop it back in. Well, I guess Mom heard the screaming and came out, and I'm trying to fix his arm. And she comes out, and then we have to kind of explain that he fell, nonchalantly, he just fell. And so his arm was broken, so he ended up in a cast. And so that's one of the things that I kind of tell people is like, I was the good kid, and I broke my brother's arm twice. So, so my poor mom, again. It was to the point where people were kind of wondering, okay, they busted their heads open, and the one kid gets his arm broken or messed up twice. What's going on? So I think they were kind of eyeballing my mother suspiciously during these times. But again, it was just us being kids and us being rambunctious, and and it was just life. Then sometime in the near future, my father gets stationed for Morocco, and so he comes home. He says, "Hey, we're moving again." I'm like, okay, we're moving again. All right, we've already had to move from Norfolk to Key West, from Key West to Maryland, from Maryland to Virginia, and I'm not even 9 years old yet. And so Mom thinks that he's saying Monaco. So she's all ready to go meet Grace Kelly, and then it's like, no, not Monaco, Morocco. Okay, where's Morocco? Well, look on a map. Morocco is at the mouth of the Mediterranean, which separates Europe from North Africa. And so when you're going into the Mediterranean, you have Spain above, Mediterranean, Morocco, Gibraltar, and Morocco is below that. So Morocco is a combination of different cultures. Yes, it's Arabia. North Africa is not what you would think of Africa. You think of Morocco. Um, in my mind, it was the Sahara Desert in Egypt. There's other countries in between, but I just know that that's where the Sahara Desert is. So we were in Morocco, and we get stationed in Kenitra, which is close to Casablanca and Rabat. Rabat's the capital, and so this is our next adventure. So Dad, Navy being the family-oriented service that it is, sends my father ahead to Morocco to prepare the way. So my mother is with 2 children with lots of medical issues, preparing us to move overseas. Well, you don't just pack your bags and move overseas. You have to pack your furniture. You have to pack your car. You have to get your medical records. You have to get a passport. You have to get all your shots. Lots and lots of shots. And so we end up being moved to Morocco. And there's so many adventures in Morocco that I'm going to have a whole other video for that. But it's kind of funny though that we had all these different things going on in our life, and you think, oh, poor Cindy had to do this, poor Cindy had to do that, or poor Alice with the 2 kids and all the medical issues that we had to deal with. We had some good things. We had some positive things. We had some adventures and memories. Things that I can look back on and go, hey, I remember when Jeff and I did this, and I remember doing this, and I remember these people who were a part of our life, who were there for us when we had this happen. And so yeah, and there's a scripture that talks about building character. We look at it as adversities or trials and tribulations and negative and painful things that occur in our life, but really everything is a stepping stone for us to becoming the person that we are now. And so if I changed anything about my past, would I be where I am today? Would have I married the man that I'm married to now? Would I have the family that I have now? And of course, there's bad things with that as well, but there's good stuff. And I'm so grateful for those adventures that we have. I appreciate the memories that we have. I appreciate the fact that we survived those things, or my mother survived those things. I've lost my father a few years back, and my husband lost his mother and father, in the past few years. So my mother is still around, and so I kind of call her and say, I'm getting ready to make a video, help me remember the time that this happened, or the time frame of this. And so we get to share some of these memories, and her being, let's see, I'm 62 now, so she's 82, 83, 82. And so the fact that she can remember all these different adventures, all these different times in our life that we had this and that and the other, that's amazing. That we can still discuss these things, and and be able to discuss who was involved in our life at the time, and how much we appreciate these wonderful people who helped us get through certain situations, or who were there for us. The neighbors who were there whenever my mom had to drag one of us to the hospital because we busted our heads open, or when the sister broke the brother's arm, and like, okay, you got to go down to the neighbor's house for them to watch you while I go take your brother to the hospital. And so it's funny and kind of it's humorous, but when you're going through it at the time, it's not funny at the time, but then when you look back on it, you kind of go, oh, geez, that was something else that happened in our life, and how did you do it? Well, you just do it. You just get through it. So anyway, I'm gonna be able to share. Hopefully, the next time is maybe get more into some of the stories of Morocco. There was a lot of adventures there, and I might be able to have some pictures then, because those are some interesting times, and the fact that we were in a country where medical, uh, there wasn't exactly ophthalmologists down the road for me to go to. So that's a whole other thing. How do we end up with our medical history in the middle of nowhere? But that Morocco was, as much as I love QS, Morocco was probably my favorite, and so many adventures, so many things to share. So I will let you all go, and I'm so glad I get to share these things with you, and I appreciate the fact that people are giving me such positive feedback, and that you all give me a chance to share these stories. I was my husband has helped me create like a little studio area for me to do this right, and I appreciate that. And get me set up to where I can sit down comfortably. I got me a new fuzzy chair to sit in, and so it makes it kind of cool to be able just to have a place to sit and do this, and to share my stories with you. And I can't remember else what I was getting ready to say. Oh, and I know I asked y'all last time if you don't mind, giving me a thumbs up, and maybe making a comment. If you feel up to it, it just gives me a chance to kind of see who's sharing, or who's watching what I share. I know a lot of you are people that, a lot of the ones who are watching are people that I know, but also people that my mom's friends with, or family that I haven't really even met. And here they are, watching my videos. And I'm so glad that I get to do this. It only took 60 years, but, there's some people who are actually getting to know me. And people who know my mom but don't know all the different little stories. Because, we forget. You just go through the motions of surviving, and then you look back and you go, hey, this is something I was able to get through, and this was kind of fun, and that was cool, and I'm glad that I was able to have that moment, or have that time, or meet that person, or be involved in this situation. So not everything negative is negative. Sometimes it's character building. It helps prepare you for your future, and being able to handle different aspects of your life in the future. I think a lot of the adventures that I had in my past helped prepare me for what's to come with my multiple sclerosis, and be able to look at that as, okay, that's not just a disability, that's just a new adventure. And and not everybody gets to have that concept, but because of my past, I can kind of say, I know that there's going to be adversities, and there's going to be bad stuff, and there's going to be drama, but I can get through it because of what I've been through before. I know I can go through it again. If God got me through this is going to be nothing. And I appreciate the fact that God has always been there through these trials and through these bad times. And there are some, later on in my life, there's some really cringy stuff, some bad things that I had to endure. But at least I have some positive things in my past to look at and say, I'm glad I was able to deal with this. So again, thank you again. I appreciate y'all so much. And like it, comment and share if you feel like it might be inspiring to somebody else. So again, thank you. Love you. Thank you. Bye.